Hi, I'm Steve Kephart. Not live anymore. I'm from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Hope you have seen some of my other stuff, and we can continue on doing better stuff. A lot of interesting, weird things happening anymore, especially with uh, what happened last week on New Year's Day, where we had two quote unquote attacks. One definitely was, uh, and we're still trying to get all the particulars on that. Was he acting alone? Because they were pretty animate that this is the one in New Orleans. Pretty adamant that he had help. They did find some IEDs, but now they're saying he didn't have help. Again, this is the FBI that's investigating it. We don't have good leadership in the FBI. That's coming. So then that one's kind of a little bit more open shut. This guy's kind of seemed like he was radicalized. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. Had an ISIS flag, mowed down people. Um, the interesting one is the Cybertruck one in Las Vegas in front of Trump Hotel Resorts there. Um, Now we'd seen a video to start off with of the explosion when it happened. Didn't do much damage to really the vehicle or or the glass front doors and windows at the Trump resort there. Uh, and we found out the FBI says, well, this guy shot himself. They have found a 50 caliber Desert Eagle sitting in the vehicle, along with array of fireworks gas and lighter fluid type stuff. So it really makes you wonder, okay, that's going on. Come find out he's former Army, um, or still is active duty in the Army, Special Forces and whatnot. This guy definitely had the knowledge to be able to do a lot more damage than what had happened. Now, like I said, the FBI said that he had shot himself right before the explosion. Well, okay, that's fine, but now we have a different angle of everything, and you can clearly make out the guy's head at least. Um, as the explosion's happening. I mean, it's a silhouette more or less of his face, of his head. When the explosion goes off, you could just for a split second, you got to go frame by frame. You can see that there's a head in there. The next frame, the head actually moves. Uh, so the explosion's already going off, and supposedly he killed himself beforehand using a Desert Eagle 50 caliber. If people aren't familiar, 50 caliber, that's a half-inch wide bullet. Uh, Used a lot in sniper rifles. This is a handgun. It is a tank of a gun. I've been able to fire one a couple of times in my life. Beautiful, beautiful gun. Made by the Israelis. Great for Palestinian hunting, I guess. Um, but that was a joke for if anybody, yeah. Um, so you got that aspect. So if he shot himself in the head with a 50 caliber, they're definitely and supposedly he had, and therefore they couldn't use dental records. They ended up using DNA to find and figure out who this guy was, and through his tattoos, because supposedly those didn't get burned. The body was charred beyond recognition, except for they could see tattoos. He didn't have any teeth because of the bullet, but yet we have this video now of you can clearly see the forehead, the nose, the lower jaw, the neck, the torso. If it was, they couldn't use dental records because of his this bullet ripped his teeth to that they couldn't use them. Uh, you could still see this. The movement, there could be a lot of different. It could be from the concussion of the uh, the the explosion going off. I could see the movement. Could he could still have been dead. Don't get me wrong, but there's no the glass in a Tesla. Those Cybertrucks is not bulletproof. Now Joe Rogan did shoot an arrow at it, um, and obviously the arrow just bounced off. But you put a 50 caliber bullet through that. Not a lot of our Humvee even armor can block off a 50 caliber round, especially when you start talking sniper rifles and stuff like that. You got to have like at least I think 3/4 inch plate steel to block these bullets that are going through. Obviously, handgun's not as big of a charge to it, um, but it still packs a hell of a wallop. There should have been glass that was broken. If he had shot himself in the head inside the vehicle, glass would have been broken before the explosion. And even in the explosion, it didn't even knock out. It knocked out the back glass, and that was about it. Uh, I did hear Elon say that I guess they're going to refurbish this Cybertruck and put it back out on the road. The batteries did not take any damage. They did not catch on fire or anything, so they can rebuild it. The tires were still intact. I mean, heck, the body's still in good shape, and that's what he said. You know, it's stainless steel body. Stainless steel does tend to get a little bit harder of a metal when you get into meteorology. Meteorology. Yeah. You start getting into how these blends are made of stainless steel and stuff. And speaking from experience, I've welded with stainless steel, cut stainless steel. Uh, Especially even in nowadays cars with their stainless steel exhaust. I was doing a lot of exhaust. You know, we would use a sawzall to cut exhaust down. Um, Regular steel, you can let the sawzall, you can put some pressure on it and make it go a little bit faster. Cut through stainless steel, you got to go nice and slow because it's a lot harder of metal than regular steel. So uh, the body's in good shape on this Tesla, so I guess why not use it? Might as well. I probably wouldn't want to be knowing that I was in a vehicle that somebody died in, um, or blew up and tried to blow up. That'd be kind of weird, but I guess we move into homes all the time where somebody passed away in the middle of the night. They don't. If somebody's murdered in the home, they have to disclose that. But if it's just died of natural causes, you don't have to really talk about that much. So, um, yeah. So I mean, you've got a lot of different things going on with that whole thing there in Vegas. I mean, the FBI is in charge. Like we know, the FBI is garbage. Uh, this is still in the same jurisdiction that we had the Las Vegas shooting years ago. Uh, and we still don't have answers to. I, some people have decent answers to it, but I have throughout this whole investigation, it didn't bring me any more answers to any questions that I've had from the beginning of that shooting. I actually have even more questions. It would take a week for me to get through questioning of an FBI agent. It would be way more than 40 hours, 50, 60, 100 hours of questions of the inconsistencies and just doesn't make sense. And we're never going to, they've case closed that. We're never going to really know what happened. Obviously, anybody can march hundreds of pounds of weaponry and ammunition up an elevator in a casino in Las Vegas and not be noticed at all. Las Vegas has the most surveillance out of any other place in the world. I mean, I think they have more surveillance there than even in DC at our government buildings. So because they're trying to catch cheats. Um, so to miss that's number one biggest question, and there's just so much more. But again, we're told what to think by the government. Case closed. It was a lone shooter. They're going to say this guy that tried to blow himself up or did blow himself up. Uh, Lone wolf, blah 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 blah. You don't need to worry about it. Well, he did write some. I guess he wrote a manifesto and was talking about stuff. And the guys that were covering this, I've kind of lost respect for, because especially Sean Ryan, he definitely has some CIA background and whatnot. Um, I mean, they both were to the point of thinking that this guy walked away. But we have these government programs that that even our military goes through that we don't know about. Uh, Fort Bragg is where these two were at one point in time. Not that they even knew each other or anything. Obviously, most of our military installments are pretty dang big. Fort Bragg is real big. You could go a year without knowing everybody that's there, even on a permanent basis. So uh, these are small towns in a lot of ways, and some people in small towns still retain a lot of anonymities because they they just don't do anything or go out. So uh, Fort Bragg's got the psychological warfare thing going on there. Uh, it kind of goes along with just the other day we had a release of data from the reports from the CIA, uh, NSA. They declassified 20 documents containing about over a little over 100, 1,200 pages. This was CIA operations from 53 to 64. It gets back into the MKUltra stuff that I've known about for a long time. A lot of people will say that this program never existed. It did exist. MK Ultra it was broke up into a whole bunch of different sub projects, but the ultimate thing was mind control uh, and mind control experiments. This is not only brought on by Alan Dulles. Of course, we got an airport named after him, the great CIA deputy director at the time. Um, he was a very evil guy when it came to this, but he it was to be able to control people. It was very much behind that. Uh, we LSD was a product of MK Ultra. They've have finally in this have admitted drugging people, doing the whole you get them high on LSD, which is makes you hallucinate, and then go through the psychological torture of being uh, put in front of a screen and hearing the same voice over and over and over again. You could implant. Uh, you could change. It's a form of brainwashing. You hear the same thing over and over again. You start to actually believe that might be the truth. It's a mind screw. And especially while you're under the influence of drugs, you can be given commands. This is where we have these sleeper agents that they've talked about, where it takes just a trigger word or trigger phrase and they turn into this totally different person, that's, they're, a CIA agent, or a James Bond type person, but they've been hypnotized to run a normal life and not realize that until they're on brainwash. But this is stuff that they were researching during this time period. It's still going on. Obviously, all CIA projects come to an end, except for they never do. They do get splintered off. They get renamed. Operation Mockingbird is a prime example where when it was exposed in 75 for in the church committee hearings, in like 77, 78, H.W. Bush, or maybe it was 79, president at the well, former or going to be president. But he was a CIA director. He had put out a memo to that this putting CIA agents at newsrooms and stuff like that to kind of sway the media. We're not going to do that anymore. But it just moved, it progressed into something else. Now they're just flat out in the open with it. You turn on CNN, ABC, MSNBC, you've got your CIA analysis or whatever like that. And these are former agents. Uh, we've had directors on there from the NSA to CIA. Uh, some of these deputy directors end up on the media, and they keep their security clearances so they can always tap back into everything that's going on. They can still read all those documents. Might have to go to a skiff to look at these documents, but they still have a chance to look at them. And I think that needs to stop. I mean, that's I really really find it odd that these people keep their security clearances after they no longer work for us, the people. So uh, something maybe we could get. I'll be writing my congresswoman, and talking to her about that because that's something that needs to be pushed through as a bill. Obviously, it's got to become a law because there's nothing on the books about it. Otherwise, we would have reason for it. But uh, I think that's a bill that needs to be pushed. I think that'd be something Trump could get behind. Obviously it's been used against him, uh, dating back to 2015 and when he came down the escalator. So, uh, be something to look into. What else we got going on? I mean, they're talking about that, but Operation Mockingbird. But here's another operation, Operation Sea Spray. It was in the 50s where we were messing around with biological agents, biological warfare. We actually they sprayed the civilians of San Francisco with biological agents as a fog. Uh, we're having this mysterious fog showing up every place, but this happened in the 1950s. I forget what day it was that it happened. September 1950. Over several days, they made a fog-borne disbursement of a bioagent. Uh, they estimate about 800,000 residents were exposed. There was people that got really sick. Only one death that was recorded, but um, what can they put in the fog? I mean, we can spray stuff that just carries along with a man-made fog. I mean, don't take much to make fog. Liquid carbon or frozen carbon dioxide uh, produces a lot of fog when exposed to water. So you can do it in a lot of different ways. So uh, again, our government's been doing a lot of things behind our backs for a long time, and it's time that they get exposed for this. It's time that this stuff stops. But we've got to work on Congress. Our Congress people do not seems like they do not care one little bit about us. And once they get that title, and we need to stop our spending. And that's one thing that shows that they quit really listening to 98% of us here in the real world. Is you know they got bills to pay too. So uh, they need to get off their butts and get some laws passed that are going to actually do us good. Uh, Cut all of our spending. That would be great. We should be spending money on any other country. I don't think we should be in NATO. I think NATO should have been disbanded back in the 90s. I think the UN needs to go by the wayside, or at least us get out of the UN. I mean, Trump's already talked about getting out of the WHO, which he tried before. So that would be great if we could do that. So we got to say a prayer for our people out there in California. Um, we've had some deaths with this latest round of wildfires, forest fires that are going on. Not be It's being aided by the Santa Ana winds, which I guess they were up to about 100-mile-per-hour winds today, which is hot wind as is. So you got hurricane winds that are pushing into these fires. Um, it's not good. Again, I mean, wildfires do happen. Anymore, it seems like uh, we're not dealing with nature starting these fires anymore. It's more man-made, and I'm not talking about just being an accidental man-made. Um, it seems like anymore that most of these fires they end up finding the root cause, and it's some eco warrior out there trying to stop oil or something like that, and will light a forest on fire to to show that climate change is real. Um, that's the sad part. But California is being run by, has been being run by a whole bunch of liberals that want to tax everybody so bad and not actually care about the citizenry. Um, Mr. Trump had put out a statement that Newsom did not sign the water restoration declaration. Um, that would have helped fill up reservoirs and whatnot. That would have helped with the runoff from the snow caps, snow melt, that to help with the water supply there in Los Angeles and whatnot. They've always had water problems. They feed a lot off of Lake Mead over there by the Hoover Dam. So, but they're doing it to themselves a lot of the times. These firefighters are actually running out of water now. That's not a good sign. What I find is really ironic is how is a state running out of water that lives next to one of the biggest bodies of water on this earth. Now, we have these nice, great, big, beautiful aircraft carriers. And you got about 1,100 or so people on there at any given time. And you're out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean or whatnot. You're not going to see land for a while. Um, how do you keep? Where do you get all the water? Oh, that's right. The water comes from a desalination plant inside the aircraft carrier. Aircraft carriers aren't the only ones that have these, but they take water in from the ocean, take the salt out of it, purify it, and now you have drinking water. California doesn't have these. We could build these. There's other countries that have built desalination plants for water needs. A lot of water. Uh, we could use that water. Uh, California could really use it, but they don't want to seem to build these desalination plants that could help out the entire city. And not all of it would have to be going through the whole purifying system because it doesn't have to be drinking water. I mean, it still could. It would still be more ecologically sound than what they're doing to the citizens as is, and worried about banning cars and whatnot. But um, yeah, it's California. I don't understand. There's some great people in California. The whole northern side of California is pretty much a red district, farmers and whatnot. They get screwed over by the people coming out of Sacramento, San Francisco, Los Angeles. Um, but it's no different than what we got right next door to here of Illinois. That's most of that state's farming, but 3 million people around the Chicago area control everything that goes on in the rest of the state. So unfortunately, that's the way it goes. But luckily here in Iowa, we're kind of more spread out than these other states. And I'm grateful for that. But fires have taken some tolls. James Woods, great actor, great conservative. He has lost his home. Uh, Fire took that. He had to leave. He was actually on CNN of all places. James was on CNN, and he broke down. It's hard. I mean, especially he's 77 years old. He's not doing the acting stuff anymore. He's just being a great troll and great patriot for the rest of us, and has some great insight. But yeah, we'll keep him in our prayers also. Hopefully we stay the 8th. We're 12 days away from Trump being in office. At this point in time, keep your head on a swivel, people. Keep your powder dry, and be careful out there. There's a lot of evildoers trying to disrupt everything in the long run. So with that, I will say we'll see you next time. Bye.